Good morning. It's Tuesday, thoughtful and full of tools this morning to ramp up our day, no matter what time you might be viewing. I can always use a little pick-me-up in the afternoon. We are starting on the mat today, so hence the beginning, starting with deep breath from our knees. I'll enjoy facing you, at least for a start. Taking those deep breaths in, remembering if you need some extra padding, you're just going to fold that mat under the knees or bring that beach towel to the mat with you. Finding your breath, your intention. What are you organizing yourself around in this moment? I think if we can find clarity in the moment, we can find some direction perhaps for the day. Let's release one arm, reach a little taller through that rib cage. Again, allowing the feet to melt into the mat and tear it in two. So opening up the hips. Exhale, let's switch sides. Draw up through that rib cage. Now notice my shoulders wanted to extend towards the ceiling as well. I'm going to reach low with this farmer's bucket on one side and extend, but keeping ideally that box or scaffolding square. Great job. Go ahead and release. Let's take the hands to the back. We'll just do a little vertical opener by extending the hands low so the shoulders relax against the spine. Draw the abdomen in, extend and open if you want to put the hands behind your hip. For that extra support, this is easily done seated, reaching for the back of your chair. Good work. Let's release, coming to all fours. And again, opening the hips, the knees, and the hands just beneath the shoulders and hips. Find your neutral spine, and from here we're going to roll into our cat. Very often notice the hips start to glide back, but see if you can tuck and tilt, lowering the chin to the chest, and then again finding some relaxation. These aren't all flexes and contractions. We're again time into that cat. I like to hold these for a couple. Excuse my breath. Also sometimes brings on a yawn. So while we're in this cow position, let's release the tension in our jaws and facial muscles by opening and closing that jaw. I've actually been, instructed to roar in classes before. So just opening even into that throat. Let's find our neutral spine and extend one leg. We'll do a spinal balance. You've also known it as a bird dog, no doubt. So this first one, I'm pointing my toe, and then I'm going to remove that other hand and extend. Only extend as high as you can leave your head and neck in neutral. So that might just be here or touching the front of your mat. Keeping the hips square and release. You can also remove the hands from the wrist for a little bit of release. Remembering that we're not putting all our weight into our hands, that we have these strong hips and legs to do work for us as well. So equally disperse the weight, the body weight between the hands and feet. Extend the back leg long. You got it. Tummy tuck. Arm extends. I shift a little bit over into my right to maintain the square, still tearing my mat up in two via the grounded hand, putting a dimple in that glute to keep the legs suspended. Then I just work in the nooks and crannies, continuing to mindfully pull in the abdomen, squeeze the glute, push the mat away, and release. Well done. So from here we can extend a leg and bring the hips to the mat, opening up the hips, the shoulders, the head. Maybe walk the hands or pull the hips closer to those hands. This is that full extension that, as you know, can be done from elbows. Kind of a mini Cobra or Sphinx. I'm going to squeeze my quads, really push myself up and away. So either is really beneficial. You just will find what's most beneficial according to your fitness level or ability today. And it does change day to day. Moving into child's pose. Extend the arms as you sit the hips onto your heels. Maybe you did some lawn work or gardening. A magnificent way, getting outdoors, to kind of break any monotony you might be feeling by being cooped up in the house. I hope wherever you are, the weather is allowing you to take in creation, fresh breath. Things are coming alive outside, and that always gives perspective. Deep breath, inhale. Exhale. We're going to return to the extension. But this feels so good, it's hard to leave this pose, right? Coming up, you can sit on those heels, not quite hero, I'm just sitting on my heels. You might have that pillow or bolster. I know you never know what's coming your way and what equipment to maybe have available. Good news is there's a pause button, so make sure you do get those tools as you need. We're going to reach the hands for the feet, but staying seated, we're going to draw back, hands forward as you push into the mat with those hands, drawing the collarbone back. I'm leaning the hips down, which is challenging because I'm used to bringing them up, or often we've brought them up, but I'm getting a tremendous stretch across the quads, my knees, and the front of the hips. The trick is probably to not collapse through my shoulder girdle. Maintaining your head posture will be really important to the head-neck strain. So just finding a space. I'm getting a great stretch in my bicep as well. Now, if you want to try turning the hands away, just be mindful again of that wrist flexion. You might need to be up again on blocks or your fist to find that stretch. Well done. We're going to shift onto our back. So sweeping to one side, bringing the legs around. Scooch and lie, lowering yourself slowly. We're going to pull the knees into the chest. Release the shoulders, head, hips. Can wiggle those toes. I try to avoid pulling right on the knee to avoid joint stress, but you could take to the shins, and now notice I lifted my feet into parallel to put some tension or pressure against my forearms,
And that has extended a stretch now to the posterior, to the back, lying on the mat. I have shown you that carnival trick before if you want to kind of rock and roll through the spine and see if you can hang on tight and let that momentum pull you to seated. I'm going to walk my hands back, extend my legs. We're going to again move into another opener. These are tricky, admittedly, because it takes a lot of upper body, arm, shoulder, and core strength. We're going to go knuckles or hands and then draw the body up. I always have to find length, different sort of bridge. It's also an incline plank. You can see that we're completely turned inside out from what a plank would be for that push-up position. It's glutes, 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 guts, 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 and your breath to find that space. Working through my feet to get the lower leg stretch. Different kind of glute. I have to pull them up, counter to gravity, extend and open for 3 breaths. More. And 1. Well done. Good news. We're going to come into our boat, a grounded boat to start. So pulling the shoulders back, leaving the heels planted. I'm going to pull my pin cushion beneath me, extend and bend. There is a very subtle scooping of my abdomen and reinforcing it to my glutes as I wrap the hips with this binding. You've heard me say it before, to seal the pelvic floor. Now hands under the thigh for support. Maybe one moves away, maybe the other. If you can, again, maintain that activation. Our next progression would be to take a foot up. Again, zip up that wetsuit. You can maybe bring both heels. Final progression, and maybe you popped right into it, is to extend the legs and find your V. Just trying to find length without losing the capture of my pelvic floor, glutes and abdomen, keeping the ribs connected to the hips and that tissue in between kissing my spine. And then we move into hollow body hold. Again, you might be doing it right here. Let's start from that grounded version, keeping my spine maintaining neutral. Little bit of flattening and consciously drawing the ribs into my hips. That's the only reason my head is lifted. So here's a great modification to hold. Again, maybe you don't need hands. This is still a good reminder when I touch my shoulders that I'm pulling in and down, drawing the shelves into my hips. The final then would be to lift the legs. Again, bind those glutes and extend the arms. I always find a focal point because looking up at the ceiling is a no-no. That would put significant strain. So I'm not even going to show you the do not, the fashion do not. And then bring those knees right back in to that hug. And let's go even for that happy baby. So you'll pull through and then return to the mat with the back of your head and shoulders extending towards the mat. rock and roll right to left across the back of each hip. Let's pull those knees in one more time and see if we can again extend a stretch across the back of the shoulders by pulling my knees away from the chest but not losing my grip. Release. And coming all the way up. If you can, we are going to butterfly the knees open, sitting nice and tall. Drawing forward. Lots of ways to do this. Grabbing the ankles, setting the elbows on the inner thigh. Trying to keep the elbows rotated. So that's why I sometimes reach for my feet first. Pull the shoulders back and down my spine, and then fix my gaze forward. Relax the head. And lifting. We are going to sweep into hands and knees. Open those fingers up, create your little air pockets, find your neutral spine, and release the hips as you draw the head up into cow with a sway back, opening and releasing the jaw, and then rolling into your cat. Letting the weight of your head relax, looking a little right, left. This is a completely different plane or posture to take the stretch. We're going to find our neutral, pull in the belt line, tear this mat up into, let's extend one leg, this time with a flexed foot. Again, take your time, release the arm. A lot of people, again, just pop into this, and you certainly may if that's your practice, but again, without compromising quality. So put a dimple or a tack in your glute, your back pocket, extend the arm only to the degree you can maintain your collarbone and hip girdle. And release. You may want to slip in a cat and a cow. And then find that neutral spine, tearing the mat up. Extend the leg with a subtle weight shift in anticipation of this spinal balance, or bird dog, you may know it as. Extending the arm, keeping the head relaxed in parallel between the shoulders. Pull the abdomen in, find length in your spine. So the benefit in holding these is that it gives us the opportunity to build some muscle memory, strength. We're going to walk the hips forward. This time I'll take you through the modified version first, relaxing the hips into the mat, drawing the head up, still keeping forearms in parallel, tearing the mat into. Pull the abdomen in, squeeze your thighs, drawing power from the earth to extend the top of your head away from the shoulders. Second variation is to come to hands beneath the shoulders and then draw the hips down. You can walk the hands towards the hips as you are literally trying to pull the hips in towards the hands. Tone in those legs. So squeezing out those thighs will naturally squeeze the glutes and take you further into that back extension, drawing into child's pose. It's like an island in the middle of the ocean. Find your mat Be that island and take your breaths. Settling through the hips. Remember, you can open those knees as wide as you need to create the space for the fold at your hip. Actively pushing the mat away as I draw the hips into my heels. Push, pull. It's like a tug of war. Avoiding the shrug in the shoulders. This is where I never want to leave, but we're going to have to. So stepping the legs together, hands at your hips. Remembering we kept the hips down. Now, is there anything keeping you from lifting those hips up? If you want, go for it. But you can do both versions. Tremendous stretch over those knees. So this is not possible for everyone, and you might need to be up on your knees perhaps, or sitting on a chair to take it back. So very similar benefits to all of these. I just want to give you the options that are most appropriate to your fitness level. This is where we started. And we're going to sweep to one hip. Extend the legs, hands at your hips as we move first to release the low back into the mat. Yes, I'm waving my feet like a pageant contestant. So this eversion, inversion of the ankle, maybe you want to point and do some other movement patterns. This ankle mobility really important to how we walk, our ability to walk. We underestimate it until something goes wrong. Go ahead and pull those knees in one more time. And then we're going to extend the legs, sitting up, hands at your hips for that incline plank, where we set the hands in and draw the hips up as the heels press, finding space. Two more breaths. Best of, you may take a break. You may not do it at all if it's not one of your favorites, but there are unique benefits to each position for the body. Our boat, let's move into it. Pick your version. Heels down, heels up, hands assist, no hands assist, extend. Finding strength from the glutes. You've contracted and created a cushion with. And then we move slightly bent. I don't like to take anyone right into hollow body hold. We're going to extend the arms and legs. Remember, hands behind the head or in that tabletop. Here's our hollow body hold. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Everything your mama gave you. Squeeze it out. Wring it out. Let's make some orange juice. So imagine we're wringing, dripping from the top of the head, primarily through that middle, keeping that back supported. Well done, my friends. This is our, Savasana. T-2 movements on deck. We're going to bring the feet together, butterfly those knees open, finding space through the inner thigh. So you might want to start right there before you begin folding forward, finding, again, length in your spine. I do that by securing the arms to the front of my legs. And then, like a unicorn, I imagine my head extending beyond my shoulders. And then just finding some breath. We're not going for maximum burn. It's, again, always a dance with our body. All these movements ultimately are an exercise in intentional movement, connecting our breath to the body and then using it to fuel, tease, creating the spaces that by design exist between the masses of our head, shoulders, hips. There is, by design, supposed to be space. And I did promise a Savasana or your corpse pose, so go ahead and lower those hips gently and extend the legs as they drift open to an external rotation that comes from the hips. And then pulling the shoulders in and under you, close to the spine so that your collarbone can extend east to west, palms up, back of the hand, even gently melts in. Okay, I just melted into my mat. This isn't our full meditation, but leaving you here to take in breaths, to meditate, pray. There's sometimes interchangeable words. We've discussed kind of ways to get into that meditative state or to return to it. So many distractions. But look at that, another practice under the belt. I hope you take that in and think about how you feel, how you want to feel around the tasks that we might find the most challenging. So I promised some Tuesday thoughts or tools. Here they are. When you focus on the feeling, how you want to feel around drinking more water, avoiding excessive snacking, your movement regimen. Focus on the feeling you'll have when it's done. Well done, my friends. I'm going to leave you with hopefully a more relaxed, fluidly moving body and those Tuesday tools or thoughts. Have a great day. I'm thoroughly enjoying the practice. Of course, I hope it's of benefit to you and you are able to squeeze in. You are able to access the growing library. So by all means, cherry pick from those and have a wonderful week. I'll see you tomorrow.